Well, good morning. We are still morning. Yep, still morning. Still Friday. Woohoo. Welcome to this very special Get Started with Analytics session. My name is Christine and I shall be your Google Digital Garage trainer for this morning. Little bit about me before we get started. So I am one of the trainers here on Google's digital skills training program, the Google Digital Garage. I am an experienced marketeer, having worked initially for huge companies and more recently for much smaller businesses and charities. And also I've been part of the Google Digital Garage as a trainer and as a coach since 2015. So I've been around, and one of my absolute favourite things to do is to help especially small business people who think that what I'm about to talk about today is somehow too nerdy and too scary for them to get involved in. Because I love analytics, and I don't love it because I'm a big nerd. I'm a small nerd, but what I love about it is that as a business, there are some fantastic things that you can learn about your business, about your customers, and that you can help you to get insights and grow. I'd also like to introduce our moderator this morning. So I've got Emma alongside me today. Emma is also one of our amazing Google Digital Garage coaches. She has been on the project about as long as I have. So she's going to be interacting with you and answering some of your questions in the instant chat. You can tell it's the moderator by, she's called Emma, but she also has a little blue spanner next to her name. And that's how we know that, well, basically she's in charge. She's in charge of you, and she's going to keep me on track as well. Few little points of housekeeping. If you have any trouble viewing the webinar, best thing to do is just try refreshing your page right now. Little bit of turning it off and turning it back on, and then solves all kinds of IT issues. If you want to join in that instant chat, so there you'll be able to ask any questions, make some of those comments. You need to be in your YouTube account, so you can easily set that up by click over on the right. There's a box and it's either sign in or sign up. Really quick and easy to do, and by the time you get back here, I'll have finished the housekeeping and we will be on with the session. So what we're going to do is we're going to pause throughout the session to answer some of those more complex questions from the chat box. So do feel free to fire away with the questions as you go throughout. Emma will be answering as we go. She'll also be popping links in there for you to try. But it's really key, I think, that for this session to be moulded to what you need, that you get in there, get signed up or signed in to your YouTube account and ask us some of those questions. And just so you do know, we're running this Google Digital Garage virtual training as part of our broader offering of courses. So if you want to check out our schedule of upcoming webinar training, see the information on that in the description below. That'll link you through to the website. Feel free to share your experience on social media and tell your friends and family about the webinars by using the hashtag #DigitalGarage. Also, if you have any feedback from today's session, we thrive on the feedback. So we would love it if you could complete the feedback form, which is linked down in the description box. And once you complete that feedback form, a link will appear for you to download a PDF of today's content. And we'll also keep this webinar live for you to rewatch for 24 hours. So you can relax, ask your questions, absorb everything that's going on, but then after the session you'll be able to rewatch any of those areas where maybe we went through with quite a lot of detail or something that you really want to hear. Now, I've said that it's a bit of a special webinar this morning, and that's because, say it's special, is because we're actually excited to be delivering this webinar in partnership today with the Kerry Businesswomen's Network. So I welcome all the guests that have joined this Google Digital Garage training. I've got a little introduction, if I may, on behalf of Kerry Businesswomen's Network before we start. So, Kerry Businesswomen's Network is dedicated to helping women play a bigger, better and more fulfilling role in their businesses and in society. Whether you're an entrepreneur carving out your place in business, a corporate player on the fast track, women keen to get back into business after a career break, or simply someone who feels you're missing a connection somewhere, you'll find your place with the Kerry Businesswomen's Network. Since the outbreak of COVID-19, they've suspended membership fees and moved all of the events online. They've delivered workshops to over 350 Kerry businesses at no charge at all. They know the challenges that so many of you are currently experiencing. Therefore, we're particularly delighted to be partnering together today. And so Kerry Businesswomen's Network are partnering with Google Digital Garage to provide you with this Get Started with Google Analytics training workshop. It's going to help you upskill and improve your business digital presence. They aim to continue to keep all their events online and free of charge for the remainder of 2020. And you can access all resources from previous events and sign up for updates and memberships at kbn.ie. You can follow on Instagram, which is at Kerry Women Can, and on Facebook, Twitter and LinkedIn, that's at Kerry Businesswomen. And I'm sure the team there will pop some of those links into the chat for me as well. Okay. I think that's where we're up to. I think if everybody's sitting comfortably, then I'll begin. Okay, actually, I say I'll begin. I realise I haven't dug out my little magic clicker. Right, let's have a look. Okay, so what we're going to do today is all about helping you to understand more about your data. All right, so what we're going to look at is, first up, we're going to look at your business. Because one of the things, I love data, I love analytics, not because, as I say, that I'm a big data nerd, but because actually it can tell me so much about my business. But one of the things time and again we hear is that people open up the analytics, they take one look at the crazy amounts of information that's there, and they don't know how to navigate it, they don't understand the language that's being used, so they close down the lid and they go and do something else. Okay. What's really key to have a good data strategy, to have good insights, good reporting, it's all about knowing what you need as a business. So we'll spend some time first working out, if you think about what your business goals are, what you need to achieve as a business, then how you make that data serve what you need to understand. So we don't have data goals that sit on their own. We really make sure they mesh in with our business goals. Therefore, they're all helping to what we achieve. Then we'll take a look at some of the reports, and you can get these fantastic insights through the reports that you can run on your Google Analytics. And finally, and this is where I'm going to need the whole of Kerry crossing their fingers for me, we will cross live into a real Google Analytics account, and I will take you through the system live as it is. And we'll take some action. We'll have an idea of how it really looks and how a real business could use some of the data that's there. Okay? Jam-packed hour, let's carry on. So, first up, what we're going to do is, before you can get access to this wonderful world of insight, first thing you need to do is have an analytics account, have a place for the data to live. Okay, so let's take a look at getting that account set up. If you already have a Google Analytics account, this is a good time to just have a little refresh, have a little think, and make sure that it's the options you've chosen are right for the business. So it's a good time periodically just to have a little think about it anyway, okay? And then we're going to think about how we go about defining those business goals. I've mentioned it about 5 times already. Very remiss of me not even to talk about what Google Analytics actually is. So Google Analytics is by far the most used analytics tool on the planet. It is incredibly powerful. It's available at no charge. And as I say, there's so much you can get information-wise from it. And as I say, sometimes one of the issues people find is that there's so much there that they don't know how to focus in on the right parts, which is what we're here to help with today. Analytics includes a huge suite of customizable reports, and their job is to help you to answer questions. So it could be how people found you. How did a visitor find your site? What search terms did they use? Did they come in from social media? Or have they typed your email address in directly? And once they've found you, what do? So what are they reading? What are they viewing? What are they spending all their time on? Are they coming to you and leaving, or are they coming and sticking around for a while? And, we'll talk about how there aren't absolutes of things that are good and bad. It's really about understanding behaviour, having an understanding of what you want people to do, what actions you want to take, and then how easy are you making it for them to take them. And so by doing this, you can measure how well your marketing's working, both Online, you can see if you've done something, you've posted something out on social media and they've clicked through a link and found you. Or maybe it's your offline marketing. Maybe you have given out a business card or a leaflet, and you can see that somebody has typed in the web address that you put out there in the real world. So it's incredibly versatile, and it's as I say, an amazingly powerful tool that's offered at no charge, which is just amazing. I've never, ever come across a situation where somebody wanted to measure a website and they couldn't get the information that they needed from the tool. Okay, so the kinds of questions that you'll be able to answer are the important business questions that you would be able to answer are who? Who are the people? Who are the visitors? How did they find you? So, where have they come from? Did they search for you? Did they find you through another website that's passed them over to you? And you'll be able to see those in proportion. And you'll be able to see, as if you change something, the effect it has further down the line. You'll be able to see what they're actually doing on your website. So what do they do when they get there? Is there something on your website that brings them in? And how do you make them stay? Are they completing the actions that you want them to? So really importantly is what they're worth to you. Now, that might be as something as easy as, well, if you've got an online shop, you'll be able to see how many people come in, where they come in from, and how much they spend. But not all businesses that have good online presences and good analytics presences, that's not necessarily how they work. There's not always an online shop at the end. But they can be worth other things to you. They could be worth, there might be a value to somebody picking up the phone and calling you. There might be a value in somebody watching a particular video, consuming some content, signing up to something, or requesting something from you. So it's not just a case of value in euro, it would be the value in all of the actions that they could take on your website. So that's the kind of question that you're going to be able to answer with your analytics. And as I say, one of the problems is you could feel very overwhelmed by this, and I don't want you to feel that, because you don't have to answer all of these questions all at once. Okay, so the answer as to what you're going to check is, well, what's important to you? Which are the business questions that are going to make a difference to you and to your business? So, first up, how to set up your account. I've done it. If I can do it, anyone can do it. It's fairly easy. First up, you have to go to this email address, this web address. So it's analytics. There we are. I lost my spotlight for a minute. Let's go to analytics.google.com. Okay? And that's where you find the analytics tool. The next thing you're going to do is choose a name for your account. And this is if you only have the one website, it's going to be the name of your website. But it might be that you're in charge of a couple of different businesses, that maybe you have one that you sell to the public and another that you are providing information to industry. So if that's the case, and you're going to have different, or down the line you might have different websites that you want to track in different places, then choosing a name so that you know which website you're tracking is going to make life easier for you. And the thing you do after that, the third thing on your setup, is choosing an industry category. Now, this is really important, actually, because it's about benchmarking. So, as you can imagine, maybe that a business that works in fast-moving retail, their customers behave, and what good looks like is very different to somebody who works, a smaller company providing bespoke handmade things. Is different to somebody who is providing information, is different to any number of businesses. So in order to benchmark effectively and see how well you're doing, there's no point you trying to compare yourself against these huge, great big companies in different industries. So by choosing the industry category, it's going to help you to benchmark anonymously. That's very important that it is anonymous, but it's going to other people who've tagged the same industry. So it could be consumer electronics, it could be marketing, whatever it is. It's going to give you an idea of, for instance, if your bounce rate is super high or super low compared to others in the same kind of industry as you. So it'll give you that idea as benchmarking, which is really, when you just get a plain number, how do you know if it's good or bad? With benchmarking, you can see that. And the next thing you're going to need to do is, you own your Google Analytics account and you own your website. You basically need to make the two of those know each other. You have to introduce them to each other. So how we do that is we take a code from our Google Analytics and we put that code into our website in the back end. Or if we're very lucky, we have a person who does that for us. If we're very, very lucky, we might find that they did this for us ages ago because it's just part of their standard setup and we've never asked them for it. And actually, the code has been there for a long time, tracking that information. So in order to track your performance, you have to show that you have to tell Google Analytics that this is your website and you have to say, right, please go ahead and track it. The tracking code can, the Google Analytics can only track from the time that the tracking code's placed onto the website. It can't go back and look. But from the second that you pop that tracking code in, it'll start counting clicks as you go through. So as somebody comes to your website, it will start to count that. So in order to find it, in order to use it, you have to find it. So where to find it is you go to admin, then you go to tracking info, then you go to tracking code, which is down this side. So there's admin. You come down here, properties, like tracking info, then tracking code. And you get this lovely collection of letters and numbers. So UA for you analytics, and then you've got your code, and then it's got a code at the end of it. So what you have to do is add that code to all its pages. It needs to sit above the head tag, so it begins tracking from the very first. It has to be basically the first thing that the web builder has on it, that each web page has on it, and then everything after it will be counted, will be analysed. So how do I do that? I'm not technical. Well, as I say, it may be that you're really lucky and it's been there already for you. You are not the first person who's ever had to do this. So no matter how you build your website or how you have it built for you, there will be a way that other people, very, very clever people, have already come up with to add the codes in. And it needs to be added to every single page of your website. If you've built the site yourself using something like WordPress or Wix or GoDaddy, there's normally a guide to do it on their site. Because as I say, you're not the only person who's ever needed to do this. So if, for instance, it was WordPress, then there's you'd install a plugin that would be your Google Analytics plugin, and you'll get something a little like this. There'll be a box for it, and you copy and paste the code from your Google Analytics account into the back end of your website. And it will then take care of adding that code to the top of every single page. As I say, you're not the first person who's ever had to do this, and no matter how you build your site, there'll be a way for you to do it. Okay? So once you've done that, you then start tracking your site. So the next thing we're going to have to do is think about your business and what are your business goals? And that means, what are you actually trying to achieve? What is it that's going to make a difference to you, to your business? Is it measuring marketing activity? What is it that's going to help you out there? Okay, so objectives-wise, what actions on the website do you care about the most? Is it straight to somebody putting something in the basket? Or are there steps on the way that are going to help you to know how well you're doing. Okay. It's a little bit like, been doing maths homework recently, but showing your workings out. You know, rather than just going straight to the end of how have they bought something, well, what are the steps they need to take on the way to help you know whether you're doing a good job or not? Okay? So, let's break this down. And this is a 4-point plan that will help you to action your objectives. So, for example, if your objective was to drive bookings, okay? What are the questions? And you might come up with a long list of questions here. But if you want to drive more bookings via your website, that's what you want to achieve. Okay? The question might be, well, who is my online customer? Who is coming and booking with me? Okay? Because that's that's important to know. You might find that you have different people coming into the website and not all of them are behaving in the same way. They're not all taking the same actions. So, if I want to know who the online customer is, then the data I want is in the Google Analytics audience report. So you can find out some demographic information about your users. If you know that information, well, you can target more people about them, and that's your action. So your 4 steps, whenever you're thinking about what your business needs, you've got 4 steps. Think about what your objective is, what you're trying to achieve. And you might have a couple of objectives here. You know your business. Then think of the questions you need to answer to affect that objective. So if I want to drive more bookings, I need to know who that person is who's buying from me. Then I need to go and find that data. And then I need to target more people, take that action, which in this case is target more people that's just the same. Okay? Now, I was saying before that there's a lot of information out there. But I was also saying that, you know, something that's quite easy to measure, like how much money has been spent, might not be the only measure of how well you're doing. So, for example, having goals, your business goals, turning them into website goals, it might be that the first thing you need to do is get people to sign up to hear more from you. Maybe you have an email newsletter you want to send them. Maybe you want them to download a particular piece of information. Maybe you realise that if people watch a video that you've placed, that you watch the whole video, that's your objective met. So it's some of the things that you can measure. What you want to be doing is those key things that you want to measure, you set them as website goals, and they're going to be the key things that are going to help you achieve your business goals. So there's a special function called goals. And goals are help you measure how well your site or your app fulfills your target objectives. So it's a completed activity called a conversion. So goals and conversions are 2 of the words that you will hear. So for instance, with a goal, you can say, right, if somebody comes to this page, then I'm going to count them because that helps me achieve my objectives. It could be how long they stay on your website for. You think that, okay, if I can get them to come here and read these 3 pages, then my goal, you know, your business objective might be to get people to know more about you. Your business objective could be that they, you know, if you ran some kind of helpline, that they have the information that they then need. So how many pages or screens they were to view in a session, how long they stay on your site, and what else happens when they're there, okay? So if you can ask yourself, why have I built this page? Why have I attached this video? Why have I put this sign up here? Well, if you want visitors to do something with that piece of content, with that action, then that means it's pretty much a goal, which means you should be tracking it. So just because you might not have e-commerce doesn't mean you don't have goals, is really what I'm talking about. There will be goals that have a value for your business. And what you can then do is once you've you basically flag a goal that says, right, I want to count how many people visit this particular page or spend 3 minutes watching this particular video. Once you've done that, you get to see them alongside as conversions. So you can see if actions you take make the goals you're tracking go up and down at its very basic form. Right, I'm going to jump in here. So as I promised, we would take some time for questions. I'm going to just pop in and see how Emma's doing, and see what's going on. Ooh, so no questions as such, to be honest. While I've got Emma alongside, she can be answering any of the questions you have as we go through. But third sector network, the issue I have with analytics is info overload. Really important. As a small startup, what data is the area I should focus on before anything else? What's most useful? And hopefully we're coming up that, it does depend. It depends on your business, but it's especially when you're a smaller operation, really getting into pinpointing what's going to be useful is really, really important. Okay, so I shall carry on. Let me get my screen set up again. Right, let's have a look. So let's have a look at Insight. So this is hopefully going to help you and what to do. Okay, so this is what happens when you have set up your analytics and you have matched it and benchmarked it, and then you've kind of sat and waited until it's collected some data. Because as I say, it can only count clicks from the minute that you put that tracking code onto your website. Fast forward, this is what you get when you see, okay? You open up your brand new Google Analytics account or the one that you've blown the dust off, and this is what you're going to get. And I'm not going to lie, this is the point where people go, whoa, there's a lot there. Maybe I'll go and, pack some boxes or print some leaflets or whatever it is, that's just because there's so much there. And it can feel like there is, as we've just said, so much info. Where do you even start? Okay, so interesting thing to note first is that as well as having data and numbers in there, there's also language that you're going to need to get to grips with. Because people see, well, there are visits and visitors, and they're different numbers. How can visits and visitors, what does that mean? So, basically, one visitor can have multiple visits. So the numbers should be different, unless people just come once and leave again and never come back. So you'll be able to see if you, and there's no absolute good or bad. For some websites, if they can get all the information they need in one visit, then you want those numbers to be quite similar. Your objective as a business might be to keeping coming back to consume more content. In which case, having a much higher number of visitors to visits, that they're coming back an average of more times, is going to be a good idea. So really important to get to know the language. The good thing is, and on the tiny, tiny screen next to me, you're not going to see this, but if you hover over, next to all of the terms that you might need explanation on, there's a little question mark. If you hover your mouse over that, then you get a little definition that comes up that will help you. And also the help pages within Google Analytics will talk you through these things. So don't be afraid to ask the questions within those help pages. Some things that you might be wanting to look. So this particular dashboard comes in, and what it's showing us is it's showing us the acquisition. So we've got a lovely pie chart that's showing us where we're acquiring new customers from, as in where they're coming to us from. We've got a time graph that shows, what days of the week we're getting users coming along. And then we've actually got an e-commerce conversion that says what days of the week people are actually buying things. So it's interesting that for this one, for example, they're having fewer users 8th and 9th of December, but their sales have gone up. So it's not just as simple as the more users they have, the more sales they're going to get. So what's going on there? And then what it does is it asks more questions. Things that people quite often look at are things like bounce rates, people who've come, consumed one page and left again. Now that could be a very quick bounce rate where they bounce off and spend a few seconds, see it's not for them and leave. Or it could be that you've got a great website where all you want them to do is take one action which is based on that first page, in which case a high bounce rate wouldn't be an issue at all. So make sure before you think of something as either good or bad for you, you really understand what's going on behind it. And this is my genuinely favourite, potentially in all of the Google Digital Garage, this is my favourite slide. Because what this does is it gives you the map, gives you the key to access the whole of Google Analytics. Okay, so I'm going to spend some time. So all Google Analytics reports are grouped into one of four main areas. We have audience. So any question about who the people are, those questions we spoke about at the beginning, who they are, we're going to find the answer in the audience. And these run down the side where I was showing you, you've got your menu down the side. The first area you're going to find data in your navigation mention is audience, who they are. Okay. Next up, we've got acquisition. And acquisition is how I acquired them, how they found me, what they were doing before they got to me. So you've got lots of questions, okay, might be, how are people getting my website? What's working well? You can see that on your acquisition side. Next up is behaviour. So if you have a question about what people are doing from the time they get to your site to the time they leave your site, all those clicks they're taking on your website, where they're hanging out, what they're consuming, that's going to be in the behaviour. Because every time somebody clicks forward or back, those things are tracked. Okay? And if your question is about what they are worth, and I remember that's not just those euro, it's the other things that lead to achieving your goals, well, you'll find those goals within that conversion menu option. So those four things again, if you're only going to jot one thing down, this whole webinar, this is the one I'd be going for. So your audience is who. Acquisition is how they find me. Behaviour is what they're doing when they get there. And conversions is what are they worth to me. The first three, audience, acquisition and behaviour, the information will be there as soon as you've left it long enough to gather up some clicks and some information. Conversions is a little bit more advanced because it's about you have to set those goals so you can measure against the goals. Okay? So all of those areas, you click on them and then you'll be shown a series of reports. Okay? So, things you can report on. Well, there's lots of things you report on. As I say, that's what sometimes people get. There's so much. But you can basically take the data and chop it in different ways. So, a couple of ways. Basically, you get tables with information, things that you're measuring, and then the data you're measuring. So a metric are those measurements. Metrics are your measurements. They're statistics. They're things like the number of visitors, the number of page views, the time people spent. So anything that's a number, that's your metric, your measurements. Okay? And then you've got the dimensions. So they're going to be your visitors, the visitor's city or their region, where they came from, that source of referral. So you could look at the number of page views by different referral sources. And how does that differ? If somebody comes in from social media, do they view more pages than somebody who could find you through, say, a Google search? Can you see what browser type they're? Does the type of browser they're using make things different? Does the operating system? Lots and lots of attributes that you can look at to see what makes a difference. Okay? But the key thing is to think about those as the number of things. Those metrics are the numbers, and then dimensions are the what's, the attributes. Okay? So, let's have a look. the sorts of things that reporting is going to be able to tell you. Where people heard about your site. If it's a where question, maybe that's an acquisition question. Which pages they visit most. Okay, so that's in the behaviour once they get there. The devices they're using, well, that sounds like it might be about the people themselves, so that's an audience question. Where visitors are in the world, that's probably about the audience, so we start there to look. And then the impact of social media. And this is where it gets, interesting that you can see by referral source, by the way people came to us, do they behave differently? And you kind of cross over those two types of reports. So, a really important question that people want to know the answer to. First question lots of people want to know is about, well, how did people find me? So this is one of the, if you're going to go in and do a little bit of looking around to see what insights you can get, start with the traffic source. How do people get to me? Do they find me through social media? Do they put in my website link directly? Are they coming to me from a different website that's referring them in? And to do that, we go to acquisition, all traffic and channels. So the channels are the different ways people can come into you. And that goes, so from your left-hand menu, you have acquisition. Remember how I found them or how they found me. Then we come down to all the traffic and we look at the channels. Now, what I find super interesting here is that I find a lot of it very interesting. So you get your general, this is done by users. You can see different days, the different users you're getting. That's really pretty. But down here, when we start getting into the actual data itself, so we have organic search, referral, direct, then affiliate. And then you can see how many users and how many new users and how many sessions, and all those numbers are slightly different. And that's where it's worth working out, well, what's actually important to you? So for instance, here, organic search is driving the most users. Fantastic. Okay. I wonder how I'm doing so well. What I'm doing well for. And what I love about it is, you see these are in blue. If you click any of these words here in blue, it'll take you down into the next level of the data. So if I had the social channels, say, in there, and I want to say, well, okay, well, which social platform are they coming from? If I click into social, it will break out that detail again and say, for all of the social channels, these are the which actual channel is delivering how much of that number. Does that make any sense? So it's absolutely interesting to go in and see those different levels. Okay, so you can understand where your customers are coming from. So from here, you might look at it and say, on this one, organic search, referral, direct, and affiliate, social media isn't sending anybody at all in those top 4. Now, am I doing a lot of work on social media? If I am doing a lot of work on social media, do I want my social media to drive people to my website? Then I might look at it and say, okay, well, they're not coming to my website, so am I making it easy for them to follow that path through? Oh, look, maybe I need to add my website link as a call to action on some of my posts and see if that makes a difference. So you can focus on improving underperforming channels that you think, or you can work out that actually this particular, I've not done much work on it, but it's working really well. How can I make it better? It's obviously appealing to my audience. Okay. Another great report is to know where people are landing, where people are coming into your website. People often don't come in at your homepage and work their way through their website in the way you might think they do. People are ever such contrary folk, and they'll come in at different places and do different things. So a great thing to do is your landing page report is going to be that first page that they come to. So anything to do with what people are doing on your site falls within that behaviour. So for this particular report, if we go to behaviour on the left-hand menu, then come down to your site content, then down to your landing pages, and you can see underneath, you probably can't see because it's titchy tiny on my screen, but underneath you have exit pages. So your landing page is the page they come in at, and your exit page is the page they leave at. So you can understand where people are coming in, how long they're spending and how they're leaving again. So you might want to understand your really popular pages that people are finding. If lots of people are coming in at a particular page, are you making sure that they've got all the information they need? And the path onwards for them is clear. Because it might not, as I say, it may well not be your homepage. It may well be a deeper page within your site. Okay, so how well's that doing, and how's it doing so well? So we'll have a look at that. You might have pages where people come in and then they go, oh, it isn't actually what I thought it was, and bounce away. So you can highlight those bouncy pages and see what you want to do about them. And if you've got those goals, those actions, you'll be able to say, okay, well, this is the goal. This is what's going to make a difference to my business. Lots of people are coming in on this particular page. Is the path through to that goal really easy? Do I need to make it that piece of content, for example, that I want them to watch is actually on that page they arrive in, rather than making people click through? My golden rule of websites is every time you want somebody to click forward and make them click forward, you run the risk that they might click back instead. So the easier you can make that path through your site for them, the better. You might want to look at the device reports. Are people accessing your website on a laptop or on a phone? And is there a difference? Is somebody who's out and about on the go, is the behaviour different than somebody who's sitting working on their laptop from home? So you can see whether the behaviour is different. And because it's an attribute of the person that you're looking for, so you might want to look and see the devices. So to do that, it's about the audience. It's about those people. So you come down to audience, check out mobile, which is way down here, and then an overview. And this will give you who's on a desktop, who's on a mobile here, and who's on a tablet. And we can see on this, for this particular website, there's a lot more people using a desktop, which was the blue, then mobile's next, and then that little sliver is tablet. But what you can also do is you can see that for the category, and you could put some more of the metrics alongside. So people who find you on a mobile, are they then behaving in a different way to the people who find you on the laptop? Maybe they find you on the mobile, but if they're on the laptop, they're going to buy from you or whatever. Okay, so you can help to make decisions there on making sure that if you find that mobile users aren't getting a great experience, okay, well, maybe you want to look at your website from a mobile point of view and see how well it's doing there. Great report here is the location report. So if you go to audience, because you want to find out more about the audience, you want to find out where in the world they are, you can look at audience, then at geo, and then at location. You can also see here that you can see the language that they're browsing in. So maybe, and we saw this as a very real example, was that there was a website that was getting lots and lots of traffic from a particular country, but wasn't selling them anything. And then when they walked through their actual website themselves, they did their own little mystery shop through their website, they realised that in the drop-down, of when it selected which country the person was in, they couldn't select this particular country. So they then had to go about, well, how do I ship to this country, go through their business. But they improved their business model so that they had, for some reason, something about their business was really appealing to these people in this country. But when they got all the way through to the checkout, they found that they couldn't complete that action. So maybe it's going to help you discover a new market. Tailor your content to what's going on. Social reports, as I said, is about where people are coming to from social media. So if you come to acquisition, you want to know how people found you, and social takes you into, and then the overview takes you into this social report that shows you which of those social media sites. As I say, you could also click through from that top level report into the social, and it's going to give you that info. And I love this video. This video is one of my favourite because this really gives you the idea of if your website was in real life, was a shopping site, was an actual physical shop. Have you ever had any of these experiences? These are common online scenarios, and I'm going to show them in real life. And maybe, as you're watching it, have a think about at which point. Do you remember I said people either hit the forward back button or they hit back and leave and go somewhere else? Think about which point you would hit the back button and decide to go elsewhere for whatever you want to do. Now, I would like if everybody could just cross their fingers for one moment while I get this set up. That would be very helpful. Thank you.
Hey, just that, thanks.
You sure?
Yeah.
Username?
Oh, Nick M?
No.
NM 1983?
No.
Zandy Pops?
Sorry.
Zandy Pops?
No, okay. Don't worry, I'll help. What's your postcode?
Oh, it's GU749ZT.
Welcome back, Nick Forever. Please listen carefully to this bread license agreement before continuing with your purchase of a loaf of bread. If you do not, blah, blah, blah. You also agree not to use any bread-based products for any purposes prohibited by United Kingdom law, including without limitation, design, development, manufacture of missiles, chemical, nuclear or biological weapons.
Tick.
I'm afraid you've timed out.
What? Sorry. Hello? Excuse... Oh, yeah, hey.
Just one loaf, sir.
Yeah, we just...
What's your username?
It's Nick Forever, but number 4, not the...
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to check that you're a real person. Could you say that for me?
That's not even a word.
Okay, how about this one?
You know what, forget it.
Or this one?
Potter nice.
You're in.
Great, I'm in.
£8.85.
It's supposed to be 98 pence.
Plus express delivery.
What's that?
Oh, well, it's express delivery. It's fast. So there's, standard.
Standard.
Delivery, that's £4.99.
Why?
Bread insurance. You didn't untick the don't decline bread insurance option.
You know what, I think I'll risk it.
It is quite close to the sell-by date.
Don't care.
98 pence it is. If you want to pop back in 5 business days, it'll be ready for your collection.
Well, I need it now, obviously.
Oh, OK. You want the take-home today price? Well, that's £3.27.
You know what, I'm going to go.
Come back soon.
I won't.
Dear customers, this call will be closing in 10 minutes. Please proceed to the checkout. Please proceed to the checkout. Thank you.
That video. Can you hear me again? Because I have to unclose. That video for me just shows in real life, if we were I have experienced every single one of those options, those things that would make me click back. Okay, so what Google Analytics can help you to do is to see what's going on your website. So if you want somebody to take a path through your website, how are they following that path? Are they following the path you thought them, or are you losing them at some point? So if that example of that business that had saw that they were getting, their location data was saying they were having lots and lots of visitors from a particular from a particular country, it was only when they walked their own process through that they saw that they weren't serving that particular country. So it's really worth taking some actions on your website. Have maybe a monthly audit of your website where you just walk through some of those actions that you're trying to get people to do. How easy is it for you to complete the goal that you want other people to? And love to know, as I say, when you're going to click backwards. At what point would you have clicked backwards? Mine is probably the hippopotamice. I hate those things when I can't, they're all squiggly writing and I can't do them, those data capture things. So what is it that would make you could be a typical customer for your business? Okay, so where are we going to go now then? Let's take a look. What I want to do is think about, in real life, and by real life I mean really live in Google Analytics, what are the kinds of questions that a business might need to? And there again, Kerry, I do need you to be crossing your fingers for me, because the next exciting thing I'm going to try and do is have a look at a real analytics account and go in there live real time for you. Now, if we were in a room together then you'd be shouting out questions at me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Google Merchandise Store, which is a real e-commerce business, and they sell official merchandise for different brands, so Chrome, Android, YouTube. They've got analytics implemented on their website, so they can see how they're performing. Now, so what I'm going to do is just take you through some questions. So we're just using this as a for example on some data. Okay, so here's our business owner, Adrian. Adrian runs a website selling clothes, and he uses his Google Analytics, and the kinds of business questions he wants to know are things like how many of his visitors are on their mobiles, and should he optimise his site for phones and tablets. To be honest, before going into that, I would always say yes, optimise for phones and tablets, because that's where a lot of people are using them, but we can use the data to back us up on that. Okay. Where are people accessing the site from? Should he start selling abroad? And then which pages are loading slowly and need improving? So they're the kinds of questions. Right. So as I say, do just cross your fingers for me that I haven't been timed out of the account. Okay. Perfect. Right. It just took a sec. I tested it before I went live, and then it just took a second then to reload itself. So if you did see the panic in the face. So this is a real example of a Google Analytics site. This is live, this is running, this is right now. Okay, so let's take a look at what we need to look at. What did we say as question? So Adrian wanted to know how well people were interacting with his site. So do you remember I told you, I need to switch mice at this point. Here we go. So before we go into answering Adrian's questions, I want to show you these things. So first thing, this is your homepage as you get in, and there are tons of things that are, and what you actually have here on each of these are links into, so here, how do you acquire users, your traffic, these are links into reports that are down the side, okay? And they're done really nice and prettily. Here's your location map. How are you, and then you've got various things, what pages they're visiting. You can always, to come back here, click home. So when you've gone down into a report, you can always click out. I like personally, rather than clicking from the dashboard, I always like to go down the side because then I know what I'm looking at. So for example, let's have a think. The first question you wanted to know was what devices were people using? So if we come down here, because it is something about the person, what the audience is using, we go to audience. I click on there, cross my fingers, and then we come down. So we wanted to know, and originally it said mobile, it's actually just the wording's been updated to say technology. And then we should be able to see, let's have a think. Doesn't seem to be quick. Okay, so that doesn't, let's go quickly. That, for some reason, that one wasn't, I think I'm just being extra super speedy clicking. Here we are, there's mobile. Brilliant. So we want to check out and have a look at the overview. So what are people using? Apologies for it being slow. Basically, because I'm broadcasting at the same time as I'm trying to get it to do some thinking, my computer's shouting at me a little bit, which is why it's just that little bit slow. It's a bandwidth thing. So here we go. Here we go. You've got your basic overview. And here, so for this website, we can see that device-wise, he's got, of all of his users, he's got 76% are coming in via desktop, 23% on mobile, and just over 1% on tablet. Okay. But the other thing you can look at, and that I would be looking at, is there a difference between the way that users come in and then the things, are the bounce rates different? So people are more likely to bounce if they're coming in on mobile than they are if they come in on the tablet. How many transactions? So interestingly, for me anyway, you could look at how long. Here you've got the average session duration. People spend less time per visit, per session rather. They spend longer if they're on a desktop, and they're quickly in and out if they're on a mobile. But look here, in terms of how many transactions have actually happened, more transactions were actually made on mobile than they were on desktop. So there's something in the behaviour there. Now, I'd want to go in and have a lot more look at the detail. Now, do I think that it's therefore worth him optimising his site for mobile? 100%. And it might even find that when he looks at those two numbers, he's getting 3 times the number of users on desktop, but they're not converting to sales. So I might be looking at saying, okay, well, what's the desktop experience like? How can I make it as easy for somebody on their desktop to buy from me as they are on their mobile? Okay. So that, for me, straight away, that's a really interesting question. And this is what happens. The questions lead to more questions. Now, here's something else I want to show you. Do you remember I said about language? When I have hovered, you see, here we have users and here we have new users. And you won't be able to read that. I can barely read it. I'd need to make my screen bigger or put my glasses on, would be the other thing, but that's just an age thing. When you hover over these little question marks, up into the bubble come the descriptions, the definitions. So you'll be able to get to grips with the language. Okay, so we were talking about the location as well. So that's also an audience one though. So if we wanted to know where people were, as I say, I always tend to come right back home to the top before then setting out, because it just resets everything for me. See here, it's reset my the navigations. The navigations all open up. So let's check out and then take a look at the locations of people. Oh, where are we? Let's see. Audience. We come down to geo. We've got language to see if he should be doing another language, but let's just check out the location map just because it's pretty. And where are his sites coming in? This is a heat map. So the darker the colour on the map, the more people are coming from that particular site. And then here we can see that for his site, so he's actually based in the US and only delivers to USA and Canada at the moment. So which other countries might be right for him to expand into? Well, here we are. We're getting a significant number. 10% of his audience, of his actual users, are coming from India. So there's 10%. We could actually look if we could ship to them. We might make the business decision to work out how we could go about shipping to India. Okay. So as you can see, hopefully, there's a lot of things that you could look at. Remembering those things, though, your audience is all about the people, what they're using, where they're coming from, as in what geographically where they are. And it's not always 100%, it's going, the bigger your numbers, the more accurate the data. You're not going, if you only have one user, you're not going to be able to, if the bigger the numbers, the better your data's going to be. Try and make your decisions based on those bigger numbers. Acquisition is where they're coming from. I'm going to just quickly show you this one because this is one of my favourite. If I go to overview of the acquisition, as I say, and it's not normally this slow, it's just because I'm broadcasting at the same time, you can see that here, the majority are coming direct. That means they know the web address, but he's getting some coming in from display, some coming in from affiliates, and then some coming in from search. But you can see that this is how many people there are. But here, their behaviour is very different. Their bounce rates are different depending on where they come from. So you could follow it through and say, well, yes, I might have a big number of one coming in, but how are they behaving? Okay, I need to stop because I could talk about this all day, as you can probably work out. Let me, but Emma will shout at me. So I'm really sorry. I've pretty much gone straight through the questions, but I can see there's a question from Third Sector Network, but that Emma will answer that one for you. It's actually what we were just talking about, which was how accurate in general the audience data is. So I will, here we go. So next steps for you. Apologies for that. I've just realised that, as I say, this is one of my favourite subjects. I could talk about it all day. What I would hope is that for your next steps, it would be great to know what your next steps are. If you could pop those in the chat for me. But what are you going to do next? Do you have analytics already? Has this inspired you to give it a go if you didn't have it already? So your next step might be to get it set up and then wait for a while to get some data. Maybe you're going to think up some of those business questions and have a more confident explore of what's going on there. However, there are some things that you can do to continue your learning online. So as I mentioned, we're running many more Google Digital Garage webinars. They're all in different subjects. So if you want to check out the schedule of webinars, see the information on this in the description below, different topics, and we update the schedule quite regularly. I'm going to leave this video, as I said, up for you to view for 24 hours. And if you want to carry on learning online in your own time, you can check out the Google Digital Garage website, because that has more online training courses available to you 24/7. If you wouldn't mind, if you'd like to share your experiences on social media, tell your friends and family about us, be sure to use the hashtag Digital Garage. Any feedback from today's session, we've got the feedback form, which is linked down in the description below. And once you complete that feedback, a link's going to appear for you to download today's content. Other than that, it just remains to me to thank you all for joining us, to thank the Kerry Businesswomen's Network, both for the wonderful work that you guys are doing and also for partnering with us to run this session, this Google Digital Garage session today. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've gone away with 1, 2, or maybe 3 things that you can do straight away to make a difference to your business. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to welcome you back to another Google Digital Garage session soon.